Right, so my name is Vaughan. For those guys that might listen to me on my digital platforms, I go by the name The Cyber Hitchhiker. But above all of that, I am just a son of this house. And this, as you can see here, is my Beyond moment. Beyond Limits is our theme for this year. So I don't want to waffle on for too long, guys, because this is about a Beyond moments. Now, we all know as Christians, our major Beyond moment already happened, even if you don't have a story like mine to tell. Your Beyond moment is the day Jesus died on the cross that you might be saved. That is the ultimate Beyond moment. But we all have individual moments that brings us into this state of grace. Some of our Beyond moments, as you've heard in previous episodes, and even when the guys are talking about it, they are talking about even the bad experiences being good experiences, because if it wasn't for that moment, they would not come to know Jesus Christ as their personal Lord and Savior. So God doesn't just use good things, He uses bad things as well, and they are all Beyond moments. Now, my Beyond moment came, obviously, I'll just touch on this briefly. When I was born, my mother didn't want me. I was adopted. I was given a chance to live. And I was raised in a family where, my dad was very abusive. He didn't just abuse alcohol, he abused my mother, he abused me, he was physically abusive, he was verbally abusive. And I lived in a house that was divided between love and hate. My mom loved God, loved us, my dad hated everyone. And it wasn't nice. But the thing is, I got a chance to live. Doesn't matter how good my childhood was, I was alive as a child. Another Beyond moment of mine was when I was in my mid-20s. I met a lady, we fell in love, she fell pregnant, and she aborted my child. So I was robbed of being a father. It's not always the easiest thing to talk about, but I'm just touching on these briefly because those are two very important moments in my life. But if I have to talk about the Beyond moment, I had everything. I was involved with syndicated crime. I had more money than I could spend in 6 lifetimes. Nothing that I can speak about on camera, but I was involved in some of the most evil, dark, crazy stuff, whether it's trafficking people, drug running, selling guns, being involved with gangsters. I did it all. I wanted an empire. Did I ever want God during that life? No. But if I have to be honest, when I was alone and I was away from trying to be this big guy who was so evil and powerful, and I was just by myself lying in my bed at night, even through those 17 years of crazy darkness, I knew that there was something more. I knew that this wasn't it, and something didn't sit well with me. But I didn't need God. I was happy doing what I was doing. So my Beyond moment is this. I had to systematically be broken down by God. Now, you talk about people having one bad experience. I'm one of the most stubborn people on the planet. God had to break me and keep breaking me. And every time I thought I was the most broken, He broke me some more. So, starting point for me would have been all of these scars on my hand here, where I was bitten by a sac spider 6 times. And the doctor said I didn't have a chance. My immune system had shut down. I was going to die. I was in hospital on and off for over 18 months. Obviously, I had to stop my life of crime while I was there. Did I turn to God while I was there? No. What happened was there was a little old lady that used to bring me Reader's Digest magazines to read. And she got to know me quite well because I was in hospital for a long time. And I never liked people praying for me. I could talk to Christians, talk Bible, talk church. That was fine, but don't pray for me. Somehow, even back then, I knew the power of prayer. And I remember this old lady coming to me and saying one day, Vaughan, can I pray for you? And before I could say no, it was like, yes. And even as I said yes, I still laid back in the hospital bed going, what did you just do? And before I could do anything, this lady just grabbed my hand and she said the most simple prayer. I actually get cold just thinking about it, because she said, Lord, reveal yourself to this man like the father he never had. She didn't know me. She didn't know my background. She didn't know how much I hated my father and how much my father hated me and abused me. She didn't know that he had died and I couldn't have a chance to reconcile with him. And she left. Did I accept God then? No. But I started thinking, there was like this switch or this beyond moment that happened in my brain where when I went to sleep that night in the hospital room, it was like a black and white movie in my mind of me doing all of the bad things I'd been doing to people for the last year. I'm talking about deaths, destroying families, the hundreds of thousands of lives that were destroyed by the drugs that I was selling on a national level was insane. And I saw every moment all the baddest things that I'd done, and I couldn't stop thinking about them. Did I turn to God? No, because like I said, most people would have. I'm stubborn. I got out of hospital and I threw a rave party down in Durban. We still called it Trance Heaven. Crazy name. And I still got a DJ from Holland to come over. You guys might remember a guy by the name of Max Angel from about 20 years ago. He was a very well-known DJ from Holland. He came over to DJ at this party. And now I'd been in hospital, guys, hadn't done drugs. I'd had this moment in hospital with this old lady praying for me and me seeing all my sin, like my conscience had been turned on. What happens at that party? I get high, I go crazy. I decide, you know what? There's nothing left for me because like you guys can see, this finger, it is horribly deformed. I can't bend it. It's like a stick. I've got no feeling in it. I mean, I can talk to you about the 17 plus car accidents I was in, the 12 plus motorbike accidents that I was in, how many times I'd been shot at, stabbed, doesn't matter. All this happened from the spider. And I was still suffering with my bone being exposed, but here I am at a party taking drugs a week after I'm out of hospital, after I'd been prayed for, after my conscience had been turned on. And there I was. And after that party, something snapped. And I sold everything that I had left. Now we're talking about from me having so much money to me down, now being down. Some people might think, oh, that's still a lot of money. Down to about my last 120,000 Rand. And I went off. I was living in a farm outside Howick. I went on my own mission. And I phoned all the people that would still hang around with me. Now the crazy thing is, from that prayer, I can only look back on it now and see this. None of the doors that were open to me in that criminal world were open to me anymore. Everyone I once knew shut those doors and said, we want nothing to do with you. Only those guys that were parasites, the addicts that were just, oh, you've got something that I can use for now. Yes, you can come and stay at my house. And we would sit, smoke crack for 3 or 4 days, do LSD, get drunk, get high, go crazy. And when the drugs finished, no one wanted to take me in. Now here's my beyond moment. God had to break me down to nothing. I ended up homeless, sleeping on a petrol station toilet floor with open cubicles at the bottom. You know this, the way the stalls look. So I couldn't sleep straight out because then people would see that I was in more than one stall and the security might find me. So I used to have to wrap myself around the base of the toilet, a dirty petrol station toilet, and hug it like a baby and sleep like that. And I remember being homeless. I can't even really call it homeless, guys, because it was 3 nights. I wasn't homeless for years, 3 nights of having nothing. And I remember waking up and having this moment. It felt like something had shook me. And I thought physically that the God had found me and he had kicked me. But when I opened my eyes, no one was there. Now you must understand, this is a guy that hadn't been to church since he was a child. 17 years in the darkest places, never opened my Bible once. Didn't have a concept of what was in my mind. So I knew it was something foreign, something new. It was beyond me. Let me put it that way, because it was a beyond moment. God came down and the Holy Spirit was there with me in that filth, in that dirty toilet. And I opened my eyes after feeling like someone had kicked me. And all I remember thinking was, if I die right now, I'm going to hell. And that never bothered me before, because during my darkest days, when people spoke about me, and they feared me, and I loved that. They spoke about me when people said, oh, that guy, that dealer, yeah. How bad is he? People used to say, well, Satan is just keeping his throne warm for him for when he gets back down to his kingdom and takes back over again. That's how they spoke about me, as being worse than Satan. So there you get a picture of what kind of a bad guy that I was. But now it bothered me. All of a sudden I was like, what? I'm going to hell. And then I had this other picture in my head of, if I don't go to hell, then the only other option is to choose Jesus. I didn't know how to do that. But something popped into my head, and it was repentance and confession And I didn't know what that was. I had no clue what that was. And for time's sake, because we don't want to drag this out for too long, but I went on a hectic road, and maybe we can talk about that road over a 4-week period in December, over Christmas, leading up to January 1st, 31st of December, 2014, New Year's Eve. I got down on my hands and knees and asked God into my life just before midnight. And my only request to him was, Lord, when I wake up on the 1st of January 2015, I want to spend the rest of my life doing what you want me to do. I didn't know how that was going to happen. But I remember for the first 3 months of me being a Christian, just reading my Bible back to front. And Matthew chapter 6 always stood out for me, where God speaks about looking after the animals, looking after the birds, looking after all of these things that he'd created. But yet I'm his creation that is made in his image. How much more does he not look after me? And at the end of that verse, it says, don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will worry about itself. And I remember saying to God, no problem. I'm yours. I did the baddest things for 17 years. For the rest of my life, I don't want to go back to work. I want to work in ministry. I don't care how that happens. I'll worry about today. You worry about tomorrow. Guys, I'm sitting here in Cares Church. I've got the most amazing family at Cares Church. My pastor, his wife, Auntie Margie, my brothers, Flenton, Trenton, Gabriel, their wives, Rowanna, Riante, Alexandria. Now, I can happily say that I'm the white uncle in the family, because they're now having children. And these are all beyond moments, guys. So my story here today, and I mean, I can tell you so many more beyond moments that God has given me in my walk with the Lord, because now I'm 10 years old as a Christian. End of this year will be 10 years, 31st of December, that I can say I'm a 10-year-old Christian. In those 10 years, I've gone from one beyond moment to another, just trusting God and allowing him to work with me, making myself empty, laying down my life, saying that whatever you want me to do, I will do it. I'm sitting here in front of this camera right now, and I can tell you right now, I'm not an extrovert person who enjoys public speaking, but everyone who knows me will say, Vaughan, never. He loves it. Podcasting, radio, video, talking, doesn't matter, he does it. Why do I do it, guys? Because I'm mandated to do it. If I had my way, I'd be on an island somewhere with 6 cats, just living my life out with some animals, not worrying about people. But Jesus worried about us. He chose us first. God sent his son to die on a cross. And his last words to his disciples were, go and make more disciples. Doesn't matter if I don't like people. Jesus says, I'm supposed to love my brother as I love myself. I'm supposed to be willing to lay down my life. And that is how I live. Doesn't mean physically I might die. Do I mind dying? No. I don't care if I get shot and killed speaking to people about Jesus. Why? Because I'm going to heaven. Hopefully through my death, they can learn to know Jesus and have a beyond moment through that. So from one beyond moment to another, from that dirty petrol station floor to where I'm sitting today, sole director, sole employee of my own business, Decent Digital Solutions, being able to do 4 hours of work a day for my clients, and the rest I can involve myself with ministry. Eternal kingdom matters that matter. Not mundane stuff that doesn't matter, but things that affect people in eternity. That is all we are called to do. So if I can encourage you guys, and I'm speaking hopefully someone who thinks that they are the worst of the worst people or person on this planet. Maybe you're a gangster from the Cape Flats. Maybe you're in a syndicate. Maybe you think, oh no one's done worse than me. Find me, come and talk to me. We can have a chat off camera and we can compare our stories of who's worse. Let me tell you right now, I am the worst. If God could take me, cleanse me, and use that beyond moment when he came down into that filthy toilet to turn me into something that is precious in his sight, that can be used in his kingdom to affect other people with that kingdom good news message, he can do it for you. And from that one beyond moment, he will take you to another, and you'll be able to look back on your life here on earth before you pass on to glory and say, my entire time spent with Jesus here was one big beyond moment. So guys, I'm going to leave it there. Maybe we can chat some more. If you guys really want to get to know me, follow my Crossfire podcast on Spotify. Tune into Joy Radio, where I do programming on a Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday night. And you can hear more of my heart and get to know me more. But you know what? I'd prefer to get to know you in person. So maybe if you're in Durban, come pop into Cares Church. Join us on a Sunday morning at 8 o'clock and be part of the Cares family. And go beyond limits and live out your beyond moment. This is Vaughan, the cyber hitchhiker, saying goodbye and God bless.